Greetings, everyone out there in the galaxy. I have returned from my first journey aboard the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, the Halcyon, the Star Wars Hotel, whatever you'd like to call it at Walt Disney World. And it is now time for an in-depth review from someone who paid for the experience and is under no pressure to be positive. But I will warn you, the review's actually going to be mostly positive. So let's delve right in. Of course, if you don't know, again, Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is this 2-night, 3-day immersive hotel experience. It's unlike anything that's ever been done in the themed entertainment industry before. A lot of it are things that we were promised that were going to be a daily offering in Galaxy's Edge, right? Like these roaming wild alien creatures, the droids rolling around, this reputation system. If you do something here, someone's going to know about it, and it's going to affect how they react to you. All of those things we were promised for Galaxy's Edge, and we were promised. I want to clarify this. These are things that were announced to the public on several occasions during, various announcement events. Those things were promised in Galaxy's Edge, and they never came to be for a number of reasons. Obviously, we always want to point at Bob Chapek, but just as responsible was park management that didn't want to pay for animatronic alien creatures. They didn't want to Disneyland and Walt Disney World didn't want to pay for those things, and so they just didn't happen. But here's an experience where really Walt Disney Imagineering, the R&D people, the story writers, all of these people came together and finally, in many ways, I mean, I'm sure there were still budget constraints, but for the most part, got to do what they do. They got to, almost unencumbered, create something completely new that is creative and interesting and different and changes the business. The business, themed entertainment and the theme park industry is different today than it was a few days ago. And we're going to talk about why that is through the course of this review. I apologize if I ramble and go on. No script here. I have literally just come off of the Star Cruiser, come to the studio, going to be here for a little bit, and then we're going back on our second voyage, which I'm going to do a second review because, as you're going to learn from this, they're going to be very different. Every time you do it, or the one time you do it, you're going to have a very different experience in many cases from other people. So it's worth talking about. But let's begin right at the beginning. Obviously, you've paid a lot of money. This is generally around $6,000. Obviously, it could be more, it could be slightly less. Depends when you go, how many people, room type, all of those types of things. But for that, you do expect, I think, some sort of white glove service. And I will say, in the arrival and departure departments, that's not confusing to say, in those departments, they are providing white glove service that maybe is what people usually expect from Disney and don't often get. Maybe it's what you expect if you stay at the Grand Floridian or Wilderness Lodge, and you don't, in this day and age, you don't even get that there, really. So you come in this weird side road. Here's a little bit of a negative. You're arriving at this immersive experience that you paid a lot of money for, and there wasn't a lot of thought to the arrival experience. There wasn't a lot of thought to, oh, they're going to pass the backside of Batuu, which is a bunch of show buildings with, rocks on sticks on top of them, which is the land you have to go to after, right? Like in some cases, I understand seeing show buildings, but seeing the show buildings of the experience you're supposed to believe you're getting off of a pod and landing on that planet and going into there, it takes you out of the story a little bit. So I hope they'll plant some trees or do something here. Because think about this, a historical example for people like, how do you hide a building? Think about your arrival experience of the Magic Kingdom and think about how perfectly pruned your arrival experience of the Magic Kingdom is. The TTC, they want you to park at the TTC across this gorgeous lake, this lagoon, and you see the castle in the distance. You know what you don't see in the distance? Really, show buildings. You don't see that. You see a castle beckoning you across the way, right? There is none of that in the arrival experience of Galactic Star Cruiser. There is this big exposed show building. There's the exposed hotel building, which you probably kind of, it's the port you're leaving from, but also you kind of tell it's the hotel. You can see that very clearly. And then past this guard shack, which is because you share this entrance with Hollywood Studios cast member parking, which is odd. There are just two big crates they've painted that say Galactic Star Cruiser, have an arrow pointing, and you turn that way, and then there's a big sign. And this is where things turn good, though. As soon as you actually arrive at that sign, there's usually someone there waving. You pull up the security booth, and they're very welcoming. They check for your name. you know, welcome you to the experience, and you pull up to the front area, which it's not a very big place, and there's going to be a lot of car traffic. You may have to sit there for a few minutes before you get to pull up and disembark there at the terminal. But once you arrive at the terminal, they're going to open the doors for you. They're going to unload your bags for you. You don't have to touch your bags. They're going to make sure they've got all your bags loaded on, walk you over to someone that's going to check you in. Again, white glove service, everything taken care of, and you arrive, check in, and then depending how early you are, if you're super early, they're going to probably talk you into taking a bus to Disney Springs for a little bit. If you're not that early, they'll probably let you get in a line to just, you know, be ready. We showed up around 12:15 for the first cruise. Obviously, I think for the first cruise, people maybe were more excited and lined up a little earlier. We were probably behind 30, 40 people. And it didn't take long to get in anyway, but around 12:15, 1 o'clock is when they'll let you in. It was not a bad line, and it's a fun atmosphere. They play. What this experience does in many cases is tick the boxes for some things that we felt creatively they wanted to do with Galaxy's Edge, but in the end hindered the experience a little bit. And one of those things is the idea that because you are living this adventure, you know, Star Wars music will never appear. Like, there are very few moments where Star Wars music and that theme are present, right? And they save it for some good dramatic moments, right? Like the end of lightsaber training with where Yoda shows up, lightsaber building, excuse me, on Batuu. Yoda shows up, and it's the disembodied voice, and the music swells. Rise of the Resistance, obviously. There are some moments in The Land where the music comes in and it's powerful, but there are moments where you feel like you want more of it and it's not there. Maybe even like as you fully walk out of Rise, that as Star Tours did so perfectly in the 80s, where you step off the ride and that Star Wars theme is pumping and you're just like, that was the best ride, that was great. This experience leans into that, which despite being so rich in unique storytelling, they lean into that, and it makes you so happy as a fan because you hear that music, and while you're waiting there, they're playing all those famous pieces of Star Wars score, and it gets you excited for that experience. Same thing when you leave. It's nice because again, you're leaving to that music. And it even plays in the pod, which is great. So you're traveling in the pod back to Earth, and the Star Wars score is playing, and it's like you're in the end of your own movie. It's beautiful and it's emotional and it works really, really well. Yeah. And so also same with the white glove service when you're leaving. They will have taken your bags. What you can do is leave them outside your room on the final day of your voyage. So you'll have a paper they'll put in your room the day before that tells you what time it has to be outside by. It varied. I think the paper said it had to be outside by 8, and then the cast member on the ship was like, no, as long as it's out there before 10, we'll grab it. And they were actively patrolling the halls for bags. So they wanted to make sure if you put your bags outside your room, in moments, they were taken away to storage to be ready for you back on Earth. It's a great peace of mind, right? Because I'm sure, you know, people have all sorts of expensive costuming and they bought these great souvenirs and they want to make sure their stuff is okay. And so it's this great peace of mind that someone's going to come and sweep that merchandise and your luggage away safely, and it'll be waiting for you when you do get back to the planet. And so same thing, you get on the shuttle, the music swells, you get back to Earth. White glove service again. They'll load the stuff into your vehicle load all your bags into your vehicle for you, open the doors for you. So great all the way around. And of course, you do have a shopping opportunity when you get off the ship also for all the merchandise that is Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser branded, because that doesn't fit within the story of the Halcyon, right? Like Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is the name of the theme park experience and not what you're actually going to be a part of. Aboard the Halcyon. So I think that's the extent of the white glove service. That being said, everyone on the ship is incredible. Not quite a Disney Cruise Line level. I kind of thought we'd have like a stateroom attendant that's, you know, assigned to a couple blocks and maybe see a couple times like on Disney Cruise Line. That doesn't exist here. Their turn down, sir, what they did to the room was very nice though. They gave us all new bedding. While we were on the excursion to Batu, they changed all the bedding. They did this for everyone. Any wires that you left out that aren't currently charging something, they actually wrapped them up nicely and tied them off, which was very sweet. Little things like that. Just really nice service that is at least a step above Walt Disney World Resort hotels as they've existed in the last few years. Still a slight step below Disney Cruise Line, which is important to factor in because of similar price points, although Galactic Star Cruiser's here, and in most cases Cruise Line's probably slightly below it, depending what you do. Obviously, if you rent cabanas and get a crazy stateroom and all those things, you can be above this. But in most cases, you're slightly below in price. Let's talk about the staterooms. Let's talk about these cabins. So during this first voyage, we had some friends who were in a standard cabin, so I got to spend some time in and film and photograph a standard cabin. We personally stayed in the Galaxy class suite, which is the one-bedroom cabin, essentially. So the standard cabin is small. It is not as small as it looks in photos. There's a good amount of floor space around the bed. The bunk beds they're this weird optical illusion because of the circular frame where they look small in photos, they look small in person, and then you get in, you're like, oh, being over 6 feet tall, I still fit in this. Okay, that's fine. I can't speak for the comfort of the bunk beds yet. I haven't personally slept in one yet, but as we get on the second cruise, I will have access to a bunk bed, and I will certainly sleep in one. I'll let you know. I slept on one of the pull-out beds. It was fine. It's the usual, as you would expect. They have these weird sleeping bags. So the bedding, obviously there's a comforter over the, there's a like protective sheet over the mattress. And then they give you, instead of a bunch of sheets or anything, they give you this like sleeping bag type blanket thing, which is branded Chandrilla Starline, which is great. And it's weird and wacky, and it feels Star Wars, and it's fun. So yeah, but the cabin, the regular stateroom feels spacious. The shower is a little narrow, but it's very long. If you want more in depth on the rooms, during the room tours, I talk through them and give you my thoughts as we go along. So I won't spend too much time on the rooms because, again, both of those room tours are up right now here on the channel. You can go watch them right now. The main thing I want to talk about in the staterooms, my biggest problem is the viewport. The viewports didn't come out great. There are a lot of moments where there's a weird glare and a blur on them, especially around the sides. And I assume this is to hide the fact that it is kind of just this slightly concaved projection surface just beyond the window. And so there are moments where it's not great. It's hard to get photos of, it's hard to get video. And sometimes even just standing in a certain part of the room, it's hard to tell what's even out there. When you do see what's out there, it's very thoughtful and it is in sync with what's going on in the story and what's even going on at the ship at that exact moment in time. So if bridge ops training is happening, there are 2 light speed jumps during the course of that event. And if that's happening, the window in your stateroom, the viewport, is going to correlate. And so you'll see that first jump, you're in the asteroid field, and then a couple minutes later when they jump back, you see that out your window again. When the First Order, let's say, blockades the ship, you will see TIE fighters and such going all around. And whatever planets we're in proximity to are out there at different times, sometimes closer, further away, depending where you are in your journey at that point. So the viewport as a concept and in execution of the film portion is very cool. As it works as a display piece in your room, it leaves some things to be desired for sure. The staterooms themselves, I think, have a lot of charm. There's a lot of little charming elements that I like very much. I think they're comfortable. They feel Star Warsy. The hallways feel Star Warsy. I don't know. They did such a disservice to themselves in all that early promotional stuff where it showed you the worst vantage points and the worst things about this ship. The ship is gorgeous and it feels like Star Wars. It absolutely, every inch of it feels like Star Wars. Crown of Corellia dining room might be the only space I'm not wild about, but otherwise I liked all the spaces a lot. Yeah, I think it's a very nice ship. It feels like Star Wars, and I don't know what they did in those previews, but man, it does not give you an accurate representation of anything in the experience. So whoever was in charge of marketing and those decisions, you got to do something better than that, because it really made people wanted to doubt this already, right? Because of the price, and I get that, because we're in this era of Disney where they are kind of greedy, and they make a lot of greedy decisions all the time under the Chapek regime. And so it's easy to be mad when they announce a hotel experience that is super cool, but is also, a $6,000 paywall to all the things they ever promised you. It's a hard pill to swallow. And this positive review does not absolve anyone of that. They should still, they should believe in giving that experience to every guest. And then this should be a step above that. But it shouldn't be, oh, this cool stuff we developed for the land that we're going to give everyone to really let them live their own Star Wars adventure. That stuff is really expensive. So we should put that in this thing where we can milk another several grand from people at a later date. That's really seedy, and it feels dirty, and it's not nice. That being said, this seedy, dirty, nasty idea turns out to be a really fun, cool thing. So it's hard to give that positive review of the experience, but we're gonna talk about how much we love it from the perspective of the creatives and the entertainers and the cast that bring this thing to life, as opposed to people who are just looking to squeeze money out of guests. Because we don't like these people. We love these people. We love these creatives and cast members and entertainment. We don't like budget crunch people. We don't like the bean counters, if you will. So that obviously, if you want more room, go check out that 1-bedroom suite video. It gives you a ton more room. Doesn't sleep more people. It only sleeps 4. Which I think I was mistaken. I assumed initially the bigger room would sleep more people. I think I even say that in that tour, but it's wrong. It sleeps 4. There's 2 pull-down beds and the regular bed. But it gives you a lot more space, which is great. If you feel a little cramped, especially if it's 4 adults, I would recommend it. If there's 2 adults and 2 children, it's still gonna feel a little tight, but it's same with the Disney cruise. You do what you gotta do to have the experience. You deal with the space and probably realize that you may not even spend a lot of time in your room necessarily. And that's the decision you have to make. Do we need the bigger stateroom, or do we not need the bigger stateroom? How much time are we actually going to spend in there? And I'll tell you, probably not much, unless you have very young kids and they need to take a break at some point, but you can make that decision based on the room tours alone. What I really loved about the Galaxy Suite, the Galaxy class suite, was there was a themed element in the room, basically something out of a land. We had this really cool display with a alien plant that had lights, and it lit up. The plant itself lit up, and it was super cool. And I love things like that. It really it cements that this is not just a hotel room. You are living in this other story. You become a part of this movie almost. Live your own Star Wars adventure. That's the thing. That's their buzz phrase, right? They love to say that, and you do get to do that. You do really get to do that. So let's talk about the adventure and how you live it. This is, again, the realization of what was promised for Galaxy's Edge, getting to take on a role and be part of the story. And when I say be part of the story, I mean you will be an integral part of the story. You can be if you choose to put yourself out there enough. If you want to make the most of this experience, I kind of sat back the first time, because again, I'm for sake of review and really wanted to see what other people are doing. I kind of sat back and didn't put myself out there as much as, and in hindsight, even though I knew I had to do that to give you the proper review, I wish I put myself out there more on the first cruise, because I saw what result that had. So someone in our party, we went to the Sublight Lounge on the first night, had a couple of cocktails, and while we were having those cocktails, there was a lot of mingling happening on the ship. A lot of the characters that will play an important role throughout the story are starting to introduce themselves to the passengers of the Halcyon. And so we had our own little table, and several characters stopped by. One in particular, Lieutenant Croy of the First Order, to the Order. He really had this great interaction with someone in our party, and that stuck, and to the point where the entertainers are going to retain information that you've told them, remember your names, and that becomes a plot point throughout all of this. Some people are gonna get called out by name in the grand finale even. which is great. It makes it's personalized. But that will only happen for those people that really put themselves out there and become memorable characters themselves. But you can also not go to that level. You don't have to go to that level to enjoy it. You could be at my level and you still get to do all those fun things as long as you use your Play app and data pad correctly. You'll get to do those things and be a part of it. But there is a level to which you can be an even greater part of it and really be a star of the show. And there are certainly people who were guests on our cruise that stand out in my memory as much as some characters did. And these were not necessarily, again, all of these people weren't necessarily always in costume. So there was a normal dressed family that just really got into it, and the Lieutenant Croy went with that. He didn't need them to be in first order gear to be as big a player as the guys that did show up in their full, commander outfits or lieutenant outfits or whatever rank it may have been. That I love is that at any point you can choose to dive in, whether or not you packed the right clothes or whether or not, whether or not yesterday you were as into it as you are today, you can still make that impact. But my suggestion is if you want to be a star of the show and really have some really fun roles in this, day one, when they greet you, or maybe you have to actively go out and try to greet whoever you want to be associated with, spend some time with them, make conversation, get in tight with those characters you want to align yourself with. Or if you don't know who you want to align yourself with initially, feel people out, have conversations to feel them out and see what's going on. And chances are they'll remember you when you do start doing missions that are, or tasks that are related to their track of this thing. They'll remember you. And the more you show your face and talk to them, the more they're going to remember you and the more a part of the show you're going to be. When they huddle everyone together and give people different tasks, they may look at certain groups like, I know you, you've been to several of these missions thus far, I trust you. Let me give you this harder task than I'm going to give this group I haven't seen yet. I don't know what they're capable of yet. Because you can fail at things. You can fail. Like we had to redo, you watched the video, we had to redo some stuff in the engineering room because the one group with kids didn't do it right the first time. But that was wonderful that happened because he berated the family's laughing, we're all laughing. It's this great moment, and then he's very excitedly, he's like, we have to try again, and everyone in the room is so excited and into it. This is the kind of theme park crowd, if you love themed entertainment like I do, this is the theme park crowd you wish showed up every day in the parks. These people that are passionate and love it and want to be a part of everything going on around them, and just everyone in unison be like, let's do it again for the order, and then all just running back to our stations and going at it again. And then we went to the bridge and fought off some missiles and lasers from there, and it was just as exciting, and it is an enthralling experience. It is the characters, the entertainment on board. They have cast some of the best people, and you'll recognize some of them from other roles they've had on property, and they are the people we had on Cruise One were exceptional. It felt like we were in a Star Wars movie, and everyone was so great at improv and so much fun to play off of and so quick on their feet. Anything, even if it wasn't necessarily in Star Wars story, so quick to respond and have that quip. And it's fun and it's funny. It is really entertaining what unfolds when people are into it. And again, if you don't want to be at that level, but you want to have some base involvement, if you want to be a bystander, just watch this all unfold, you can, and it is entertaining. But I think those greatest rewards are dive in. I will tell you on this second cruise, those first few hours, I'm going to be making sure those characters know my name, who I am, what I'm interested in on the cruise. I'm going to make sure, that path I want to take, I'm going to be fully immersed in it and be a part of that story. And you'll be a part of everyone else's story on the cruise too. It's really, really great. The bad part of this is still the Play Disney Parks app. The Play Disney Parks app is a big part of that. What I love is that even though you do need the app, without a doubt, but you can make impressions and affect your reputation also by having those face-to-face interactions with characters. It doesn't all have to be just doing the play task. Like, you should do them, but you can also get a reputation just from having those real interactions, which makes things feel so much real and stronger and better than the Play app and the Datapad have ever felt using it in Galaxy's Edge. So, but the problems are that the Datapad you played with in Galaxy's Edge still exists. So the comms, the communications or comms part works very well, as long as you use the device Disney is giving, because they're seeing some hiccups when people use their personal devices, which you probably, like me, some of you dressed up thinking, oh, this is going to be the device I use the whole time. But no, they're actually going to give you, at least for the time being, this could change later, they're going to give you a device that they have ensured will work the best and will trigger everything correctly and give you all the prompts you're supposed to get. So you'll get that device and a charger and everything at the beginning of the cruise, and you give it back to them. It's an older iPhone. Give it back to them at the end of the voyage. And that's going to ensure that the Play app works correctly. Being a naughty boy that I am, I wanted to know what was going wrong. So I used this the whole time. I didn't really run into problems until later, where I did see that there were things other people were getting to do that I wasn't. But as soon as I switched over to their device, I got those prompts. And my advice is just use their device from the beginning. Use their device from the beginning. It's a very deliberate reason they're doing it, and it will ensure you have the best experience. I also kind of like that because then that means I can capture holo scans. That means take photos and video with my actual device. So that's, I mean, it's nice to have the bonus device actually. I mean, obviously I'm blogging and vlogging, so super helpful, but you'll want to make your own memories too. So I think it's cool to have two devices, and that means less battery strain on your actual device because you can do all that Play app stuff on this one. It is another thing you have to remember to charge, but again, they give you the charger. The larger Play app problems are really the lingering stuff from Galaxy's Edge. The Batuu excursion in particular, when you go to Batuu, still makes you do these stupid puzzle things. The puzzle things are fine once. They get very repetitive. The radar thing, raise the phone up and down, left and right. Drop these pieces into place to complete the puzzle, draw the lines between the boxes. This isn't Star Wars. This doesn't make me feel like I'm doing something. You just sent me from a place where when we played around with the experiences with the brig and the engineering room and the cargo room, these actual experiences, there are things to do in those places. And especially in the engineering room, there are levers to pull and things to plug in, and this is what immerses you and makes you feel like you're really in this, is when there are tactile, physical things to play with that have a response when you do things with them. So having this moment on Batuu where it goes back to this, oh, you know all that cool stuff you just did on the boat, forget about that. Unscramble this message by doing something from a 99-cent app store game. It doesn't work. That's not what we want. There are things that can happen on Batuu. Again, we did the first order track, so I can't speak in detail about what other people got to do, but there are cool things that can happen on Batuu. As much as I dislike the Batuu excursion, it is instrumental to your reputation and achieving what you need to achieve. So you're going to need to go to Batuu, even if you don't want to. You do have a lightning lane for Rise and for Falcon. You should go ride them. Rise, it's worth mentioning, not altered for the experience. So with your data ban that they give you at the beginning, nothing's going to happen at Rise. At Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, though, Hondo has a couple of interesting lines about you being a Halcyon passenger. So pay particular attention to the pre-show, right before you, basically the pre-show before you board the Falcon. So that little screen right before the door opens and the second door opens and you're in the cockpit, that screen, run to that door. When they say, all right, head on in, run to that, because the first line he says is about the Halcyon, if you want to hear that or capture it. And the other thing is when you exit quickly, because he makes a comment again about where that coaxium is going. The coaxium is a big story point of Galactic Star Cruiser, which I love because we've been on Smuggler's Run a bunch, and I like it. And I want to know what this coaxium is for. And now you get the full story. The full story of this coaxium. And it's actually a really good little, it's a really, the Star Cruiser from start to finish compiled with Batuu, added to the Batuu story, creates a really compelling narrative. It's a really great, essentially in-between film in the Star Wars franchise, and probably the second best of the new trilogy. In fact, not a great accomplishment, but nonetheless, I think they tell a really fun and enthralling story throughout. I think Batuu always did, but now this is the accompanying piece that completes that story in a really satisfying way. The show writing, it's top notch. They did a really great job putting all the story together, which sometimes in theme parks doesn't happen. Sometimes you sacrifice that for operations or for time. It's not sacrificed here because you do have this almost 48-hour period where it marinates and unfolds, and there is time for these little moments to seep in and give you little chunks of the story at a time, which is wonderful, really wonderful. So again, sometimes the Play app still does that old stuff, and it's really the low point, as is the Batuu excursion in general, because the box truck transport is dumb. It's dumb. It is one of the lowest points, I think, of the entire journey, because it is. You had this cool transport take you up to the ship from Earth, and again it takes you back. And the Batuu transport there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. It reminds me a lot of, this is going to be a deep cut. Some people know what I'm talking about. Some people won't. It's essentially a like 6-minute Terravator ride. The Terravator is a pre-show element of Journey to the Center of the Earth at Disney Sea, where it's this fake elevator that makes it look like you're traveling many miles below the Earth's surface. And so lights kind of flash up and down this vent. That vent, verbatim, is on this transport. So it's just lifted from that. And there's just some flashing lights. And so there's a droid pilot. We don't get to see him. He's not on a screen. He's not physically there. There's a little sign in the corner that shows that it's an RX droid, just like Rex. And we know he exists. We don't get to see him. He has like 2 minutes of dialogue. And then from that point, it's like, all right, everybody, listen to some music from the land while we finish the drive. And we can't pretend we didn't see the original concept of this, right? Whether it was going to be a bus or not, it doesn't matter what the real vehicle is. What matters is that we lost any video screens and we lost any physical droid. We don't have those things, and even if I didn't know those were planned originally, this transport is lackluster. It's claustrophobic and small and dark and dingy, and it's not a memorable or enjoyable part of the journey. Like it is seamless how you get onto it. I applaud them for what they did with a box truck. I think it's really cool. I wish there was more to that. I think it's one of the parts that fell flat. One of the few parts that really fell flat for me. The Batuu excursion in general, again, once you go into a normal theme park environment and there are just regular day guests, it does what's the term? Harsh your vibe? Is that what people say? It changes the feeling, right? You've been immersed in this story, and then you go to the land and it's like, oh, we're in a theme park. Okay. I mean, Batuu is great, and you do get to ride Rise with no wait, provided it's operating. It was down when we first got there, but it didn't matter. It was up by the time we went back from Falcon. It's nice you get to Lightning Lane those. You do have a meal voucher, essentially, that's on here if you want to go up to the counter. It also works through your mobile app. I thought it was really cool. It's applied in the app, so it knew when I went to place a mobile order at either Ronto Roasters or Docking Bay 7, it said, oh, we'll apply your credit. And it knew, and you get a beverage, which could be alcoholic. This is the free alcoholic beverage. So make sure you take advantage of it. Make sure you go get it. Even though I'm not wild about the alcoholic beverages on Batuu, you should take advantage of it. Also, Docking Bay 7 and Ronto Roasters have some good food. Check out our reviews at WDWNT.com of both of those restaurants. Ronto Wrap's very good. I like the Tip Yip and some other dishes at Docking Bay. It's good stuff. You should eat there while you're there. Even though there is a buffet on the ship, you should still go do that. Yeah, the Batuu excursion, otherwise, then we went and did these very basic tasks and rode the 2 rides, and then we were done on Batuu. And I do understand that there are other paths where maybe there is more happening other than just shutting off an engine or, having a ship make noises, which are things you could do before in the Play app on Batuu anyway. But the Batuu excursion really fell flat, but you need it. You need to do those things to progress your story, and really you paid for Lightning Lane and a meal. You should go at least use those things. The less interesting activities on the ship happen during that anyway, but you can be back in time for some of the more interesting ones, which start around noonish, 1 o'clock. There is like a tasting session in the Sublight Lounge with the non-alcoholic beverages where they give you the backstory to those. That video will be up on the channel if you want to watch that and check that out. They, in story, in Star Wars universe, explain the origins of the drinks. And you get to try them for free. Usually they're pay beverages, so they're free in this case during this tasting session. Show up early because people do show up quite early for that, and it's limited to the bar seating. So, but there are cool things like that are happening. There also is, there's Space Bingo. Sector Set is what it's called. Space Bingo. It comes with this cool custom sheet of paper, which we didn't play. I just took the sheet of paper and left. But I don't know, like there are those things. If that's the thing someone wants to do, there's a sabacc tournament. There are these secondary activities that aren't story activities. They are essentially real cruise activities on a faux cruise liner, and they exist. And a lot of them are lackluster, but they're in the background that it doesn't really matter necessarily. Like Know Your Co-Pilot. It's basically the newlywed game, but toned down. It's not great, but it's there. There's droid racing for the kids. Again, sabacc tournament. A lot of people are going to the sabacc tournament, which was in Crown of Corellia dining room. You will find a couple things. The model building, you'll find a couple of those that really appeal to you, and I think you'll like those. The tasting one was really cool. I like that one, and a lot of the other ones were just kind of there. But you will be so busy. There's only so much time and there's so much for you to do that you probably won't do a tremendous amount of those. I would really sit down with that schedule and think about it and realize that even beyond what you're picking out from the schedule, there are things you have to do for missions and things that aren't on that schedule yet that you need to be ready for. So do plan to maybe miss some things and highlight what you really feel is important to you and try to manage your time effectively around that. We will have a more in-depth article about specifically my First Order track, and you could watch a lot of the video of that First Order track here on the channel. But I think I've given you all the tips and tricks I can for you getting involved. And if you do want to be involved or don't want to be involved, either way, if you do the basic stuff you're supposed to do in the play up, your basic tasks, you will get invited to those key events on the final night that are very important and also very cool, because that build up to the finale, you feel that tension as the First Order blockades the ship, and as other things start happening. There are a lot of big story events happening on the ship in succession, and they're not small 5-minute things. They are these big events that drag out and move across the ship because it's a real living scenario. So an event that begins in the atrium will travel up and down that elevator and end up in Crown of Corellia or in the hallways down on 4 or in an engineering room in a meeting, or there's a lot of cool stuff like that. That's what I mean, being in the right place at the right time. You can't see everything because it is a real living, breathing adventure. By being in certain places at certain times, you will just come upon events that you couldn't imagine. One I want to talk about, a little spoilery, but I have to talk about this because it was, for me, the highlight and really encapsulates how great the entertainers are, but also how well thought out all of this story was. There's a moment where, again, I'll try to not give away too much of the story elements. There's a moment where Lieutenant Croy of the First Order needs to be distracted, and so some Resistance sympathizers pretend to be First Order sympathizers and take him onto an elevator. And their plan on this elevator is to distract him as long as possible, whether that's hitting all the buttons, accidentally standing in the way of the door when it's open. Think like an Abbott and Costello style bit unfolding. And these are just guests. Guests are getting into roles and becoming characters and are part of the story, interacting with these tremendous actors and actresses. And it is a lot of fun. But the best thing is I just happened to be on the landing where the elevator had opened. There is no one else there except the people in the elevators. I am standing there, the door opens, this is all happening. The elevator right next to him opens, and it's some of the lightsaber training, I believe they're called the Saja. I think that's what they're called. And two of them like sort of peek out and around the corner, like, is he there? And they kind of look at me and they're like, is he there? And I'm like, yeah, he's there. And they just kind of peek, they poke their heads back, they take their heads back in, and the elevator door closes, and this is still happening on the other side. And it's a really fun moment. If you love theme park entertainment and improv and live theater, there's a lot of magic here. There's a lot of magic. These are top tier entertainers, guests who really want to be a part of it, and a really well constructed system in which all of this can play together. And it is fun. It is fun to watch. It is fun to be a part of. It is enthralling, and it really works. And that's all I'll say for the adventure. Time to be negative. Let's talk about food and beverage. Always, you never like anything you eat. That's fair. That's probably fair. Food and beverage was kind of It's kind of Sublight Lounge, this is the bar up in the atrium, is the best dining experience. And that's not because there's alcohol. The cocktails are solid. I wasn't blown away. None of them are outright awful. They're solid and enjoyable. There's some cool souvenir cups you got to get. They're very cool. And but the food, the snacks are great. And obviously they're included. Alcoholic specialty beverages and alcohol in general, and as well specialty non-alcoholic beverages are added cost, and they'll bring you a check for those. But all the food's included. So if you sit at Sublight Lounge and want a snack, included, get as much as you want. The cheese tray, the chips. Oh, the chip dish was so good. So many of the things at the lounge are so good. A lot of really good food up there. Crown of Corellia's buffets, the breakfast and lunch buffets, which are different day to day. They do change some items out, and in fact, on some days change a lot of items out, are really lackluster. There were like one or two things we thought were good, and a lot of things we thought were either, I would say, under-seasoned, a little flavorless, or outright gross. To the point where I remember like sitting there after one serving and we're like, well, what was the best thing here? We're like, remember when we laughed that there were chocolate chip cookies on the buffet and how that's not really Star Wars? Yeah, I was like, that was the best thing. That was the best thing on that buffet that day. That and like a little pizza. And it's just a lot of meh. A lot of meh to eh. So mediocre to bad, the translation on that. As far as the dinner services, the first night is the dinner show with Gaia. The second night is the, dining around the galaxy, all the dishes representing different worlds in the Star Wars universe. We did there's a captain's table available for an additional charge on both nights. You can only do it one. Originally we had both booked and they forced us to drop one because they're like, oh, the policy is now you can do one captain's table per cruise. And we're like, okay, fine. There are two dinner servings a night. There's a 5 p.m. and an 8 p.m., an early and a late. And captain's table available, both those. We did captain's table the first night, and I will say this, captain's table, it's kind of in the middle of the room. You would think, oh, you're dining with the captain. Not really. Both nights, the captain stops at the table for 10, 15 minutes, has some conversation. Might be the only awkward interaction I've seen in the whole voyage. Otherwise, the improv, very good. I don't know, something about maybe that scenario. And other than that, some story moments do play out near your table. Like specifically, they're like, well, this is the center of the room. Let it play out near this captain's table. They paid more. Let them get a little bit more of the action and excitement. Maybe the lieutenant sits by there one night and Gaia comes and dances and they have a whole argument and little stuff like that. And there are tiny supplemental courses added to captain's table. Very tiny things. Again, full in-depth reviews of the captain's table experiences will be on the site if they're not already. So I'm not going to delve into individual courses here. I will say this, some things were very good, some things were very forgettable. Nothing was outright bad at either dinner, but not the best meals I've ever had. There were some individual items that really stood out, and it all feels very Star Wars, even though it's all just Asian and African. I guess it's foreign enough to us. And some sauces reminded me of Sanaa, of course, my beloved Sanaa. But as far as the Gaia dinner show is great. The live musical performance, awesome. Cool thing. And how it ties into the story is great. The fact that it's a captain's table dinner experience and you see the captain for 10 minutes, I don't think captain's table is worth it you can skip it and be fine. And plus, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you a great view of the dinner show either, because I ended up facing my back towards Gaia on the show. She does walk around the room, but I couldn't see Uwani playing the instruments and stuff on stage, and so it was fine. And the dinners were fine. They were solid. They were definitely better than the breakfast and lunch buffets. Definitely better than those. Dinner show's great. Second night, I do like the presentation of the second night where the pastry chef and the other chefs come out and describe each of their courses and how it ties to a planet. And the room changes color and the music changes in tune with that, and all the servers come out in a row with the food and almost simultaneously drop them on all the tables. It's a nice presentation. They both have their moments. They both have some good dishes, some bad. I don't even about bad. Again, mediocre, more likely, under-seasoned. A lot of that's what we kept hearing a lot, not only from us but other people. We heard other people on the ship say something similar, and yeah, so that's the dining experience. There is grab-and-go breakfast available. It's a little box. Again, there's a review of that up on the site too. And then a snack. There's a snack area that operates in the atrium throughout the day with a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. There's a spicy popcorn and a little cookie with the Cinderella Starline logo. And what else was there? There's weird little Rice Krispie bars and bananas and oranges and yeah. And as far as drinks throughout the day, so there is up in the atrium there is a water fountain machine with 3 types. I think it was, I believe it was cold, sparkling, cold, flat, and room temperature flat water. I think were the 3 options, and that is available in the middle of the night. You can go up there, and you have a container in your room you can fill. Other than that, the drink stations in Crown of Corellia are unavailable at several times of the day. Obviously, breakfast service and lunch service, you can go in there and get blue and green milk, not frozen, but just cold, just at a cold temperature, not frozen, available via a drink fountain, and also a number of soft drinks and coffee and all those things. But that's only available, again, breakfast, lunch, and then there's the break for them set up for dinner, and then obviously dinner you're seated at a table. It's table service and not buffet, which breakfast and lunch are. So do keep that in mind as far as drink service. You could always go up to the bar and ask for stuff for the complimentary beverages, coffees and sodas and things that, and they're open till, the bar is open some nights till 1 a.m., the last night till 2 a.m. So a good bar hours. But if you do need something to drink desperately in the middle of the night, there is that water machine. It's in a weird spot towards the front of the atrium by the bridge, which I think was a super interesting spot for it, but it's there. It's there for you, and it's really well themed. It's really pretty. I like it. You can also get some drink service out in the atrium too. They'll put little tables out with menus for added service out there as well. And again, everyone on the ship, super accommodating, super helpful. They're happy to get you whatever you need. If you really went up to someone's like, I really, I could really use a drink. You really use some water. Someone will help you. Someone will help you. All I'll say for food and beverage, again, check the reviews on the site. We reviewed every single item. So if you want to know before you go and be prepared for what you're going to like and maybe what you won't, check out those reviews. We're not going to bog down this very long video any more than we already have to. All right, so obviously the question at the end of this is it worth it? And I've seen people try to argue that, and like everyone tries to sound smart, and they're like, worth? Can you give worth of something? There is a trade-off. There is a trade-off of goods and services and money, and the price of something delivers an expectation. There's undoubtedly, when you pay for something, an expectation, and then the question always is, does it exceed or is it below what you paid for? Do you regret spending that much on an activity or an item? That's life. That is life, and that's the way we have to answer this. And I will say this: is it worth the price they are charging for it? No, it can't be. It's an insane amount of money. And it is true that you can have a luxury cruise line vacation with Disney even for less money. They're 2 very different types of trips, and in most cases it's hard to argue the cruise line one because it's even the shorter cruise is going to be longer than this. This does feel somewhat rushed. And maybe it feels rushed because it's great and you don't want to leave the story that quickly. Maybe that's part of it, but I think part of it is so short that you know how much money, undoubtedly, no matter, I don't care how much money you have, there is some thought in your mind that's like, for the amount of money I spent, I need to extract a value and do everything I want to do. It's true for Walt Disney World vacations, no different. People spend $1,000 and they make their list of, here's what we need to do on our vacation, here's where we want to eat, here's what we want to ride, here's where we want to stay, and we want to extract. The business I am in mostly exists because people at home want to extract that value. They want to know before they go so they can have the best experience possible. And then, of course, obviously, because we're fans, we delve into all this, nonsense beyond the creativity and the artistry and those things. But at its core, it is, I'm going to go to Disney World or Disneyland or wherever, and I need to know how to get the most out of what I have spent for that trip. And for Galactic Star Cruiser, there's no way it's worth this amount of money. I will say that you are going to have, as a Star Wars fan, or maybe not even as a Star Wars fan, maybe just someone who enjoys live theater, you will have a tremendous, unbelievable, unforgettable time. This is just such an unruly amount of moolah. This is so many credits. It's just so much money. The first thing I'm going to say, I know I've talked about how much I love this experience. I cannot stress enough, in good faith, I have to say this. Please do not put yourself in debt to go to a Star Wars hotel experience. Don't do it. If this is going to affect you financially in some negative way, whether it's credit card bills or whatever, or just make things tight for a while, you're your own, live your own life, but I will tell you, don't do it. Don't put yourself in a hole for 48 hours of fun. This is going to be here also. This isn't going away. And I assure you, at some point, bookings have to become lower, because with this price, eventually you'll run out of people. Either they've done it already. There will be some point between when most of the people that wanted to do it have done it, and the time at which it is time to redo the experience as something different, right? Because eventually, after a couple of years, you have to change it and try to bring these people back, but also have a new story that may interest different people. So in between those periods, in between the time at which most people that wanted to go on to Galactic Star Cruiser have, and a new story begins, or a new experience begins, there should be this period where there should be some light discounts or lower rates or something like that. My advice is, if this is really something you feel the need to do, but it is a big financial commitment for you that requires a lot of saving and some time and some thought, wait Disney out. Wait them out, because the chips will eventually be down, and when they are, they always come back for us, right? Like annual pass holders, they won't sell annual passes again. But there will come a time where they need those people again, those guests, and it will happen. It may be longer from now than you want it to be, but it'll happen. And same with Star Cruiser. I think give it some time. If you don't feel the need to rush in, if you want to start saving so you're in a better place financially, and you want to really give this some thought as if it's right for you, take some time, think about it, and prepare for maybe a day where they do decide affinity groups get a discount, whether it's pass holder, D23, vacation club. The day is going to come. It is going to come. So just hold on. I know the FOMO is strong. I know you really don't want to miss out. I get it. It doesn't make it easier that I'm here telling you about what a great time I had. But, real life does trump the imaginary world. I know this is not something you thought Tom Cruise was going to say to you. And there's people probably on my staff laughing in the back. But nonetheless, real life's important. Don't put yourself in a bad place. If you can afford to do this, it's really great. It is. I am so overjoyed to see. It brings me such joy to see unencumbered creativity in themed entertainment. To see the faces of, obviously we had a lot of executives in plain clothes on our voyage because it's the first cruise. They're very excited. They worked for many years on this. And to see Scott Trowbridge and Ann and a whole bunch of people, I saw, like, as they took in the way people were responding to it and how much it meant to people. To see that joy in them that they got to deliver something that is this special and this meaningful. And it comes full circle, right? Because I love this. I know people are like, oh, he's so negative. Why does he even go? He hates this. I love this artistry and this weird thing more than it's my entire life. I love it so much. And nothing has ever brought me greater joy than to see when it is everything it can be. So like first time I went to Disney Sea and just being amazed at how did this happen? How did this budget happen? And how was Imagineering allowed to do everything they could have possibly wanted to do? And seeing it on this ship where it's like, there are new things. There are things we have never seen before that are, as a guest, we get to play with. This is great, whether it's the AI on the screen or new little visual effects or just this level of immersion and ability to play along with the story. It's so exciting to see new things, and we so rarely get new things anymore because the company has become so budget conscious the last few years. There are little shining moments, but this is the shiniest moment in an era of darkness for Walt Disney World. This is the shining moment. It is a shame, and again, abhorrent that it's behind that paywall. Remember, executives bad, boo, boo executives, but yay creatives. So this is a great moment to celebrate these people who worked for years to make this happen, these entertainment cast members who've been working for months to get this right, and the people that show wrote this thing, and the cast members that fill in all those gaps on the ship in every single role. Everyone came together to deliver something that has changed the game and is wonderful and memorable and meaningful and will make you emotional. And I know people have laughed about some tweets about people with their kids crying in the atrium about the experience being over. It being over is not what made me emotional. What made me emotional was this grand finale and it's live entertainment, right? Live entertainment is the magic. How many times did we say that during the closure and the comeback? And we're still missing some great entertainment like Streetmosphere at Hollywood Studios, which now there is no reason to be missing because you have non-distance entertainment on a fake cruise ship. Yeah, we'll start talking about that more. It is live entertainment like this is so powerful. It is so powerful and is more magical than any attraction. And it is at the forefront and is the star here. And watching people get into it and cheer and boo and play along is so powerful. And so as this whole experience comes to an end and the whole ship is there in the atrium screaming, and the Star Wars music swells, it is a powerful moment that you will never forget. And it made me a little emotional. It's like, it's a great reminder of why I love this thing, why I love this industry and this place, is because it can be that. And it's important to remember when we judge other things that it can be this. And so when it is less than this, that becomes unacceptable. This is the quality standard we expect from Disney, and they delivered it here. And Disney, you can charge us whatever you want, but this is the level everything has to be at. This is what is expected from your guests and your audience. And on this occasion, because management allowed it and let the money be spent because money was going to be made, we got what we needed. Like, don't get me wrong, there were some little cuts in places, right? There's like one alien with the, articulated face. There's one droid, but it works. It works really well. It's still a little toned down, but it is the first time we've really gotten to fully live in another place where every single cast member on that ship, not even just entertainment, is in the role, lives on that ship. That is they have a planet they're from and a backstory and all this knowledge. Everyone was so knowledgeable and threw out Star Wars facts that I didn't even know in playing their characters and their roles. It is a Star Wars fan's dream, and it is a theme park fan's dream. And I think you don't even necessarily have to be both. You can be one or the other. And if you are both, you're going to be blown away forever. Not that these people won't, but if you're both of those things, this is incredible. This is something really special. So in review, Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser changes the industry for the better and sets a bar for immersion and storytelling and what the future of this industry needs to be. It sets that bar, and now we cannot accept anything below that bar. The pressure is on now. You've shown it can be done, and done really, really well, and we want more of it, absolutely. So the review is it worth $6,000 or more? No, it's not. But you have to decide if you have $6,000 to spend. That is your decision. That is your decision to make. But if you do have that money to spend, if you do have that cash to burn, it's really fun and really fantastic, and it's making memories that will last a lifetime. And there was one mother we spoke to, it must sound like a media shill here, but there was one mother we spoke to who said, like, I've never seen my kids this happy. And I know, coming from, hosted media, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I would hope you all know, like, I call this thing as I see it every day. I like some things, I hate some things, and I would hope that it means something. And I hope people on management and the creative side understand when WDWNT makes, a review of something, we try to be honest, we try to be fair. And when something exceptional is done, it is to be celebrated. And when something bad is done, it is to be, shamed. And that's the way that works. That's journalism and media and the way the game is supposed to be played. And so in this case, a great job was done, and this is a glowing, positive review of a wonderful experience at Walt Disney World. I am so excited to go back on. I will be happy if people want. You let me know in the comments if you want a second trip review. You want me to come talk about some things that were different, or compare and contrast sleeping in a different room, and just anything that was different about the second voyage. I am happy to come back and provide that. Certainly on the site, we have so many stories to publish, in-depth reviews and guides to the stories, and the Play app portion, the data pad, and all of those things. So if you are going, we have everything you need. We have spoiler-free content. We have spoiler-filled content. Anything any of you could possibly want, we are producing for this incredible experience. And I assume you guys are going to want to learn more. And if there is more you want to know, questions you have to ask, or things you want to see, let us know in the comments below. Of course, please like this video. Please subscribe for more. And we sincerely thank you. I know so many of you have brought up over the last few weeks how much you're looking forward to this honest review from someone who paid. And I hope we did a fair job. I hope we lived up to the anticipation you all had. And I wish you all a good voyage. I'm going back to the Star Cruiser. See you all later. You want to come, Bantha? Are you coming with me this time? Maybe I'm going to take him. Although they serve Bantha on the cruise, so I don't know. It may not be good for him to come.